All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Monday already. It is the 13th of May, 2024. And we're getting it rolling this morning just after 8 a.m. Appreciate everyone for joining the Rise and Grind Morning Show here, represented by Rockhound Podcast Network. Good morning, Eric. How you doing, man? How was your weekend?
Whoops. Really good. Not a bad weekend whatsoever. Other than getting locked out of my Facebook, back in now. Everything's good to go.
Yeah, I saw that.
Crazy hackers.
I had to suck, man. Your password must be too easy.
No, it had nothing to do with my password. It had something to do with some group or something. So I don't know.
You got to be careful of those groups, man. There, speaking of groups on Facebook, there is a complete nightmare unfolding on. Like, I can't stand Facebook anymore now. And now that I'm learning Twitter, obviously that'll be the go-to, but which kind of sucks because I got a lot of people in a couple of groups and that I have in my page is decent, I guess. But McCurdy, Nigeria, I mean, that whole area over there is just full of these hacker spammers putting stuff out that, like, Dan Campbell left the team, had a heart attack. I mean, they put stuff out there like that because he missed rookie minicamp. Just weird stuff like that, or Goff is traded for $500 million. I mean, it's crazy because people click on it. I don't understand how people don't get clickbait, but you know what it really scares me of? Voting, like presidential voting. When we have to elect a new president or a president or any person in office, and people are clicking on this stuff and believing in this garbage. Like, fact check stuff, people. Please make yourself more educated because it is not a good situation for us with social media right now. It's bad. And it doesn't help when you have, media outlets that are, spinning this stuff too, and just not making it any better. So it looks like we have a light crew this morning, so far anyway. Is what I liked it, and that might be because I didn't share this stream everywhere. I wanted to just dedicate it to YouTube today, and then I kind of like shared the link as opposed to going live. So let me see if we're even live on some of the other ones.
It took me a couple tries just to get into the feed on YouTube.
I'm trying a few different things. I want to go back to just dedication on YouTube. So it looks like it's working on Twitter, which is good.
And those spammers that are in the Lions groups on Facebook, they're on every football group. They're on every group you can think of. Doesn't matter what it is.
So here's something that I do. What they're doing now is they're using obviously pictures of other people that's not them, but they're just not smart enough to remove the other pictures that they already had on there. So like you'd be going through, it's like this super, uber white family, and they live in suburbia, and then like the third picture is them in a hut in McCurdy.
Yep.
And it's like, come on. I mean, you guys are smart, but you're not smart enough. You didn't remove all the pictures. So it's like decline, ban. And, I'm sick of doing it. Like, I hate having to do it every day, but unless I lock it back down, it's just one of those situations. So today, new hottest Monday segment is called Over Under Monday Reactions, or Reaction Monday. And basically what we're going to be doing is going over like 20, 30 different topics, sometimes more, sometimes less, utilizing it to kind of keep the show going today. And then obviously we would love to see, the chat interaction. You guys get involved, answer these questions, put your information out there so that we can use it, on the show this morning and share your opinions and what you think about these hot button subjects. And then also wanted to go over the new schedule real quick. So, and I can't even remember it. Half the time I write stuff, I don't remember what I write. But new schedule until August 1st, I think is the plan. What I'd like to do is we'll go Monday through Friday. We'll do the morning show. We'll start by 8 a.m., maybe a little bit earlier some days. And it'll be at least an hour, typically 90 minutes. More than likely, some days will be 2 hours. So some days, I don't know what that was. Some days we'll have a lot more, time on than we do others, but that's the plan. And then we'll do Monday, Wednesday. I have it scheduled Sunday, Wednesday, Friday to do the night podcast. And then that will change, obviously, as more time allows, number one. And number two, once we get a little bit busier with Detroit Lions news, which will be around training camp, things will start to pick up. That'll leave more options for breaking news. It'll give me more options to get back into doing more videos, so I'm not just live all the time. So Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., we do the morning show. And then Sunday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 7:30 p.m. is when I'm planning on starting to do the night podcast Off the Cuff by Rockhound Detroit Lions. And that, again, at least an hour, typically 90 minutes, up to 2 hours, just depending on how crazy it is with the news. So let's get started right away. Go ahead, Eric.
I'm looking in the chat. There's some people that were also having trouble getting into the YouTube link there. It wasn't working.
The YouTube link, this one?
The main one on Rocked On. I had trouble getting back in. I had to get out, get back, get in, get out, back in about 3 times. Then it finally let me in.
Well, that's always fun. I mean, I can't do anything about YouTube, but
and somebody said, Tracy said, go to the syndicate link, and then that worked.
Yeah. So here's what's weird is I'm looking at it right now on YouTube and it still says upcoming.
Yep. And yeah, because I had to get on the Syndicate Sports one to get it to work. The other one's not working.
Well, that could be a problem for later.
Yep.
It wants me to re-sign into. That could be why it's asking me to re-sign into YouTube. Which has never asked me to do that. Great. I got to remember my password. I've got it written down somewhere.
Yeah, you're like me. I have no clue what the passwords are.
Oh, I have them all written down somewhere.
Yep.
I don't like fumbling. Give me just a second, guys. Let me try to get this fixed real quick.
While Will's fixing that, I could show you guys something that I got in the mail. Pretty cool. You guys will dig this. So my buddy Dylan Forthoffer does these, and this is 25 of 30. He does 30 prints of each one, and this is a drawing that he did of Amon-Ra with the blue hair. So I got that in the mail while I was gone. And then I got another one here. I'll have to open it, though.
Huh. Interesting. Maybe someone's been trying to hack me this weekend.
And here's the other one I got from him. Autographed Hutch. So he took his original down to DC Sports during draft week, and he got Hutch to sign it, and he gave one to Hutch. I think he gave the original to Hutch. And so I bought a copy of it, a print. And that one is number 6 of 10. So only 10 people got that one there. And I'll get it all framed up, get them up on the wall with everything else.
So where can they find this guy? How do they get in contact with him to get some of his artwork?
Yeah, here, I'll tell you guys. I got all this stuff right here. Get his business card off the back. Use a fresh one. And he always sends some stickers too, see? Like this little, get it kind of close so you guys can see it. But they reflect back and forth with the Lions logo and Michigan. So it's Dylan Forthoffer, Forthoffer, and he's on TikTok at Dylan James 348, and then he's on Instagram Dylan.Whalen.52, and then Dylan Forthoffer on Facebook. And he does amazing work. I commissioned him to draw my wife's cat for her birthday. And it made my wife cry. It was so lifelike and captured his spirit. This kid is super, uber, ultra talented. He got commissioned to do a picture of JMO when he scored the touchdown at San Francisco, the first touchdown, where he did the end around and he ran the ball in. JMO's mom got a hold of him and had him commission a piece for him for his birthday. It was awesome. Absolutely incredible artist.
Okay, so for whatever reason, I'm obviously relogged back in, but there must be something wrong with this stream, sir. I'm gonna have to reach back out to these people over at Streamlabs again. It's just, this is why I did part of the reason why I did the test the other night is because we keep having issues.
Yeah.
And I can't keep having issues. So I'm hoping that tonight there's no issue. I'll be really disappointed if there is, but there might be a new link that gets posted. So just pay attention, to the one that's obviously live. All right, so let's get rolling here. I don't want to hold this up anymore. I'm going to post this. If you guys could share the new link on Rockhound Syndicate Sports, whatever that one's called. If you guys could share that link for us this morning on your socials, that would help people to be able to see this. They're probably wondering why they can't get in. All right, so let's get rolling. So I'm going to start off with something a little bit funny. People have known me for a long time in my love and connection with food. Not so much eating it, but making it. So my question to you, Eric.
Sure.
First over under question is going to be, do you think that I can make amazing crab cakes? Over under.
You got to throw the curveball at me right in the beginning, huh? Well, it depends on what you put in them. Let's see.
When you think of amazing, I'm talking like the best Maryland, Bay crab cakes there could possibly ever be.
So I have
Gordon Ramsay crab cakes. Like, can I make crab cakes as good as Gordon Ramsay?
I don't know, man. I've been to the East Coast. I've been to the West Coast. I've had some of the best crab cakes in the world. So it's going to be pretty tough for you. Well, we'll have to do the toe-to-toe challenge on that one.
So what's your answer?
I have to see it to believe it. So I'm going to say under right now.
There you go.
That
is my dish. Those are my crab cakes. It's all 100% original. I mean, just look at that beautiful crispy layer on top.
Nice presentation.
Nice remoulade dripping over with some corn relish there. Little twig of thyme for some, presentation. But yes, the answer is 1000%. I do make the best crab cakes in the world. And if you don't believe me, you're going to have to hit up a tailgate this fall where I'll be making crab cakes at least for one event. because they are so expensive. So I will be doing some crab cakes for this event.
Chef says, until you've had camel's tongue, I cannot engage in this conversation.
Yeah, I will.
Crab cake, Chef.
I will never eat camel's tongue. No way.
No, I don't think me either.
I've had cow tongue. I mean, that's just part of the, there's local culture around here. I've had cow's tongue before. So, all right, let's get rolling here. First questions up. Real questions about over under this morning. Hot take reactions are going to be first one, Penei Sewell. So, Eric, and in the chat, these are the questions for both you, for everybody.
Okay.
Penei Sewell, do you believe that he finishes his career in Detroit? I mean, he just signed a massive contract, so we know he's here for several more years, several more seasons. But after that contract, do you think, one, he continues to play, and two, does he finish his career in Detroit?
Over
meaning yes. And why? Why do you feel like he'll finish his career in Detroit?
Well, I believe that he is a very, what would you say, humble, and he's very, this is his family. This is all he knows. This is the only team he's ever played for. And he loves the Detroit Lions. He loves Dan Campbell. So as long as we keep the same regime, I think he stays for the long run. Just like Decker. Decker's been here for the whole time. I think that Decker, even let's say he only makes it to the end of this season and we don't re-up with him, I think that he will retire a Lion. I don't think he will go anywhere else. And I think the same goes for Penei Sewell. This is his family. This is his team. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. I doubt we ever see him go anywhere else.
So I would tend to agree. I mean, obviously, as long as it's not a money issue. So all these questions that you have to, assume that the players are going to be healthy. Contracts are workable. And it's more of a question of, their testament to the team and how they project to the team, the culture, the identity, everything. I mean, everything about these players that Penei Sewell is. I mean, he was their first pick, and he obviously embodies everything that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes want from these players. And he exudes, all of those intangibles on and off the field. And that's why I feel like Penei Sewell he's going to be a lifer in Detroit, I believe. And he's so young. I mean, he still has a solid 10 years in front of him. Imagine that, a solid 10 years that he could play in the NFL. And, he may not last as long as some of the others. So on the other side of that, if you were to say the under, I would say the only reason why that there could be an under situation here is he just got a massive deal. I mean, his family is set for life for generations. And, at some point he may value family more than football. And I'm not saying that he values, football over family right now, but what I'm saying is there might come a time where, family's just too important, and all the work and dedication and time that goes into playing football is a big detractor for families. So anyway, so my answer would be over 2. I think that the Penei Sewell is a lifer, 1,000%.
Yeah, the only way I see it going under is if he had a health issue, like gets his ACL blown out a couple times and he wants to be able to walk when he's 50. So he steps away from the game for health reasons. Other than that, I think he's here for the rest of his time. And like Mr. Morale says in the chat, loyalty, very loyal player. He appreciates that we moved up or not moved up, but that we took him with the very first pick in the regime with Brad Holmes and MCDC.
All right, let me zip off this email real quick to Streamlabs.
All right.
And I just want to make sure they get on top of this quickly. Hopefully they get back to me today. All right, second question. Sure. Why don't you pick one? Why don't you pick one of yours that you prepared today?
All right. We have, I think I'm saying his name right, Matu Betts from the Canadian Football League. And my over-under reaction is, does he make the 53-man roster, first of all? And then second, does he get at least 8 or more sacks? What do you think about that?
That is an interesting question. So hold on, let me look something up. I kind of wanted to give this answer for. I'm going to use this answer probably interchangeably for a couple of questions here, but let's just consider Matu Betts, his skill set, the league he's coming from, the fact that he already tried out for the Bears, in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I think he understands the NFL. I think that he has a real good grasp on what he needs to do. He's a high motor, high character guy. For that reason, I would say he's got the edge already to make the roster. But I would say that the two bets is probably in the bottom 7 of this team right now. And this is without seeing the guy play, right? This was without knowing what he's been able to do so far throughout. I think he was invited to rookie minicamp.
Yes.
So I just don't have any big reports from Betts yet. I'll have to listen to some podcasts today to hear what some of the guys said, and I haven't reached out to anybody over there yet, but I will today. So I would say he's in the bottom 7, meaning, he's somewhere probably between 40, 46 and 53 right now. We'll have to see how that progresses. The Lions have brought in, quite a few players this year and a lot of UDFAs, and someone might shine. But as long as he can get to the quarterback, I would say he has a great chance at cracking the 53. So I'll go the over on this. I think he'll make the 53. I'm going to go under on 8 sacks though. I would love to see him get 8 sacks, but I'm going to say that he'll probably be somewhere between 6 or 7 sacks this year. And let's just hope he has way more than that. I don't think that you have to be, sack heavy to win games. And that's going to be a segment that I want to talk about maybe towards the end of the show this morning. Is there's a stat that you kind of brought up the other day that I think we'll talk about here this morning, talk about blitzing. And I don't think that people really understand what the Lions defense, or at least some fans understand what the Lions defense is all about and why some of their numbers may look bad or indifferent from, other teams that, higher caliber teams. And there's a reason for it. So, all right, third question. Well, I guess what is your answer on that question?
There we go. So I'm going to read a little quote from Ray Agnew. So what is Ray Agnew hoping to see from CFL signee Matu Betts? He said, I hope he gets 18 sacks like he did in the CFL. So coming from someone inside the organization, they are very much hoping that this kid makes the roster. So I believe he makes the roster. Maybe the 53, very at the bottom. We'll see what he does in preseason, see what he does in camp. And I'm going to go with the over. I'm going to be the eternal optimist for Lions fans. I am accused of it all the time, being a homer and being over optimistic. So why change my flavor of the day now? I'm going to stay the same, and I'm going to be the forever optimist. And who doesn't like a small guy, small school CFL comeback story? It's awesome, right? He tried out for the Bears. He flamed out. He went back to the CFL. He kicked butt, and now he's coming back. Let's see what he can do. So I'm all in. 8+ sacks.
I'm gonna throw a curveball here. I don't think that I put this on my list today. Let me see here.
Okay.
Let me see. I didn't. All right, so I'm gonna add one. Speaking of Matu Betts, does Matu Betts over under? Matu Betts has more sacks than Aiden Hutchinson in 2024.
Ooh, under. I will say under. I think Hutch is going to have an amazing season this year, especially with DJ Reader there. He's the starter. He's going to have way more opportunities, way more starts, and Betts might just be a fill-in. And we have to see what Davenport does. Davenport might tear it up. We don't know, because Davenport had 9 sacks in a season. He had 2 last year, but I think he had 9 in his best year for the Saints, something like that. So you never know. Davenport might tear it up. I'd love to see that as well.
So a couple of things in here from the chat. So Rick says 5 sacks is a major upgrade from what we had last year. Mm-hmm. Outside of Hutch and Aleem, nobody even sniffed 5 sacks. You know what's funny about that is it was a largely a rotational type of defense. Like we didn't have the same guys in there every single down, you know, that they had good quality snaps. So when you have a lot of rotation, you're going to have that. You know, you're going to have guys that are, you know, not getting a ton of sacks, but it's kind of spread out. I mean, we finished kind of like middle of the pack, I want to say, for sacks last year. 41, I believe, or 42 is what we had last season. And 41. Yeah. And I mean, it was middle of the road. I mean, I don't think that was a glaring issue based on, you know, let me just go into that for a second. So you had a question here about blitzing. Why don't you go ahead and read that one? Okay. And then I want to talk about why, you know, some fans just don't understand the lack of sacks versus a defensive scheme. And we'll chat about that.
Okay, so I think I got my numbers right now from what I had last night. So Minnesota blitzed the most at 51%. And then the league average was 26%, with the Lions and Aaron Glenn averaging 28% on blitzes. Do you
say that one more time?
So Minnesota led the league with 51% blitz rate. Mm-hmm. The average on the league was 26, if I have my numbers right. And then the Lions blitzed at 28%. So just above the average.
Okay. So the league-wide blitz rate was not 51%.
No, it was 26.
It was 26.
Yeah.
And the Lions were 2% above average.
Yes.
So how many teams were above 26% though?
Oh, I didn't see that.
And so we don't know which teams had the higher blitz rate versus sacks?
Yeah, I don't know. I found just that Minnesota had the highest at 51%.
Then we'll have to come back to this segment. So the league-wide blitz rate is 51%, over under on the Lions blitzing more or less. So over under 28% in 2024 is the question, right?
Yeah.
Here's where I'm at. I think because of the defensive line, and like I said, I'll come back to this segment that I wanted to talk about. I'll do it maybe in a video, or we'll do it tomorrow morning. Give me more time to get some more stats. Because the Lions were at 28% this last year, and now they've added DJ Reader to the mix here. I think that you can afford to blitz more. I think that when you have, you know, big guys on the defensive line that are really good at shutting down the run, you don't have to overcommit now. You don't have to overcommit your linebackers, your ends, your pass rushers, your nickel, your safeties. You don't have to overcommit too many guys in the box now to shut down the run. And at least through the middle of the defense, right? You're going to force everything to the outside, and then you're going to have guys playing cleanup duty on the outside. And I think that now you're going to see more linebacker blitzes is what I'm hoping for. But I also think it's a much better opportunity now that you can sink a safety down in the box, right? To cover the tight ends over the middle, and anything coming over the middle, kind of spy the quarterback a little bit. But now I think you're going to see Jack Campbell utilize his lateral agility and his north-south ability to be able to get to the quarterback and find a hole between, you know, or on the outside of Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader. I think you're going to see a lot of center blitzing happening. Maybe not so much on the outside, but I think we're going to be blitzing more through the interior. So with that, I'm going to give the over here. I think the Lions are, I hate to say even more aggressive, but they were pretty aggressive last year. I would say that they're going to blitz more, but I think it's going to be, how do I put it? I think it's going to be more controlled, right? Like it's going to be more situational and controlled, where maybe you're not sending, 7 guys, or 5 guys. Maybe you're only sending, 2 or 3 guys, and more often maybe just 1 guy through the center of the defense. So I'm going to go with the over here.
Yeah, I also am going with the over. And in the second half of the year last year, Aaron Glenn really brought it on. We blitzed a lot more with people like Ife Melifonwu coming on and us just having a little bit better line play afforded him to run the defense kind of the way he wants to, but he still didn't have all the pieces. He didn't have the cornerbacks to be able to be sticky with these guys on the outside and be able to hold down the fort while the people could get there to blitz. So I think with all of our cornerback additions and everything we've done at the secondary is really, really going to help. And he's going to be able to blitz a lot more and stunts and do the things that Aaron Glenn wants to do. I think he just couldn't do it yet because he never had the players, but now he's got the players.
I think that's a great point too, that, you know, Aaron Glenn did not have the personnel that he deserved, nor that he needed. I mean, you can't have a complete defense and play well in you know, every single game when you don't have corners that can't, you know, lock down guys. You don't have corners that can stick with just about anybody out there. Cam Sutton was a huge liability. I mean, he was the best corner we had last year, but he was really a liability. I still will stand firm on the fact that Cam Sutton was supposed to be the number 2, and then he was thrown into number 1. And Jerry Jacobs was probably never really supposed to see the field, and you know, unless it was a bigger package, you know, type of scenario, you know, bigger dime package, bigger nickel package, you know, where Jerry would have been utilized, you know, a little bit more heavily. So now that we have an opportunity with cornerbacks to really handle the back 2/3 of the defense, I think that opens up the ability for the defense to get more creative. And now that AG has some bona fide dogs on this team that can play at a high level, I think he's going to utilize those strengths, you know, to the defense's ability and really show us what we've been missing. You know, the part of the playbook that's been scrapped so far. There's some plays that we haven't seen. We've seen spurts, but we haven't seen enough. Bucky here says, I bet the first sack of the season comes from a DB. He also says if Betts outperforms Hutch, he will eat his work boots. Yeah. Bucky, I'm going to take you up on that. And matter of fact, here's what I'd like to do. If Betts does outperform Hutch for the full season, we're not saying just one game, but if he did outperform, and this is like just sacks, just pure sacks alone, not, you know, not all the stats, because obviously Matu Betts is not going to get as many snaps as Aiden Hutchinson. But let's just say he does end up with more sacks for some unknown reason. If those hot chips are still available or something like that, let's have you on for a you know, hot chip challenge or something, where you've got to eat, you know, something hot, you know, live on air, and I'll take that bet. I don't think you can eat a work boot, and I wouldn't want you to, but I get what you're saying here. So
count me out. I'll eat a flaming hot Cheeto. That's about as hot as I go. Seriously.
So let me welcome everybody into the chat this morning. Now that we've got some more people in, of course, we had Tracy kicking us off this morning. Good morning, Tracy. Mike P. Who else is in here? We got Rick. We got Mr. Morale Tarantino. Decker Pecker. Good morning. How you doing, my man? Sneakler. Who else is in here? Chef Talks. Lions. Chef Talks tomorrow. After your show, if you get on 8 or whatever, hit me up. Let's get in a session. We got B Spica 1. Who else is in here this morning? I know we got Bucky in here. I don't think I'm missing anybody. John Doe, Justin G, King SJ. Bucky says, let me rephrase, don't bet against Hutch. There you go.
Did you see the one Eric had no written all over his face the minute hot and challenge came together? Yeah, no, thank you.
We got Motown Mitch in the house. Let's see here. Justin G, John Doe. John, I'm glad everything worked out for you, man, on the gift card. You got the hat that you wanted. That's awesome. So anyway, good morning, everybody. Let's keep rolling here. What do you got next for us?
Oh, let's see. Here's another one. Okay. So Dan Campbell went for it on 4th down 41 times in 2023.
That's their sack total.
All right. In 2024, will he go for it less or more than 41 times?
41 times. That had to be the most in the league.
It led the league, yes.
Look, I don't think that fourth down Dan is going to slow down. I'm just hoping we're not in fourth down situations as much as we were last year. Then again, I still think we are missing a true number 2 receiver until we see what happens at training camp. We just don't know. So I'm going to say Dan doesn't slow down, but 41 times is a ton. I'm going to go with the under here, especially if Boom Boom Bates is added to this team. So I'm going with the under.
With the under. Okay. Well, even in the playoffs, the Lions went
Mr. Morale. Hold on. Mr. Morale Tarantino just agreed with me. Look at that. We spoke at the same time.
So in the playoffs, the Lions went for fourth down 5 times and made it 3 out of 5. That's converting at a pretty good rate. That's over 50%. It's about 60%. So I truly believe that the Lions, when put in fourth down in a good situation on the field, are probably still going to go for it. I think that Brad and Dan have a plan for fourth down, and they're playing money ball. You're starting to see all these coaches across the league start to go for it on fourth down when normally they wouldn't have 3 or 4 years ago. League-wide, people are going for fourth down more, and it's because of Dan being an innovator and a leader in this area.
Spot on.
You know, he saw what they did with it when he was at the Saints. You know, Sean Payton in the Super Bowl. He kicked an onside kick and went for it on fourth down, things that people just were not doing previous. And I think Dan took that and supercharged it. So it would not surprise me if we actually go over this year, if we're in the proper field position to go for it on fourth down. But remember, we were at the 27-yard line, game 1 against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he goes for it on fourth down with a fake punt, and we convert.
It was Jalen Reeves Maven, right?
Yeah, and it won us the game. And, you know, I hear all these fans complaining about Dan Gamble in the 49er game. Well, you know what? We never would have made the playoffs, and we wouldn't have won 2 playoff games without Dan going for it in the playoffs. We needed those fourth downs. We had to do it. We just didn't have enough. You know, like Brock Wright says, it takes more. So we got to do just a little bit more. Otherwise, we still need to go for it on fourth down. So like
I tend to agree. Yeah, I tend to agree with all of that. That, you know, that was a big statement for me this offseason when everyone was complaining about the Dan Gamble situation. That, look, you know, to Eric's point, a point that I made many times, we're not even in the playoffs. We don't win 12 games without some of those situations that he went ahead and went for it and converted on, because it changes the game. You know, it changes the momentum. It changes, obviously, your field position. It changes everything. So without those plays being successful, and he was pretty darn successful. Do you have the number of conversions that we had based on the 41?
No, I didn't.
I don't remember what the number was, but I think it was pretty high.
Yeah. I think it was over 50%. So
Brent says brass balls, Dan can't help it. It's a wasted down. It is. You know, I think that I think that, you know, blue and silver, look, he says, bro, we're still in the playoffs. I don't think that we are in the situation that we are in without some of those fourth downs. I don't. I mean, some of those games are pretty close. So if you actually go back and look at some of the games and how close they were and what those plays actually did, it changed the entire game. I mean, we were one game, 2 games. What was the Packers record last year?
They were 9-8.
9-8. So we are only 3 games ahead in the North. So yeah, would we have still been in the playoffs? Potentially. Yeah. But do we end up with a 3rd seed? Yes, we do, because we would have won the North. I don't think the South had a record even close to us. I don't believe.
No.
That would have been the Bucks. I don't think that they had a record even close. So yeah, are we still in the playoffs? Probably. But my point is maybe we're not. Maybe some of those games you could have lost 3 or 4 of those games easily if you don't go for it in those situations. So I just think the point that I'm really trying to make is you can't be excited and supportive of what Dan does regular season and then throw him under the bus postseason. He's going to be who he is and stay consistent. That's what this team is all about, is being consistent. And I think that if you're consistent in the regular season, doing something a certain way, you can't stop that and change your own momentum in the postseason. I just hope we're not in those situations as often as we were last year. But then again, I'm totally comfortable going for it on any 4th and 5, even running the ball.
Yeah,
I'm totally comfortable with it. And that's, man, it took a long time to have that comfort come back. It's always chewing your fingernails off at the end of every game for the Lions for the last 30 years. All right, a couple of my questions here. Terrion Arnold, over under on Terrion Arnold, starts at CB1, week 1. What are your thoughts on Terrion Arnold here?
For now, I will say under. I will say that he's CB2.
CB2?
And,
yeah, he's still starting.
I think he's starting, but he's the second cornerback. I don't think he's the guy that we put on Justin Jefferson and have him follow him around the field. I think that's Carlton Davis for now. He's got more experience, and until the young buck can prove himself, he's got to prove himself. This is a prove it league, and just like we brought in Okudah, we thought he was going to be the guy. We thought he was going to be the man. And I was very optimistic with Okudah, but I'm still optimistic with Terrion Arnold. But maybe this is the pessimist coming out in me. He has to prove it first. I need to see it.
So I guess a couple of things. I want to kick it back to the previous question. Shout out to Mr. Morale Tarantino. Put up a couple of stats here. 60% conversion rate on 4th downs is incredible. Like that's a really good stat. 87.5% with 3 yards or less. You can expect that we're going for it. 3 yards and in, we're going for it every time. Field position, depending, of course, you're not going to go for it on the 10-yard line. I love it. So I guess hear about Terrion Arnold. Here's what I'm thinking. This is going to be exactly what Brad Holmes said this summer is a bloodbath. I love the chemistry already between this DB room. They've really gotten off to a fast start. And I think that Terrion has the ability, right? I think he has the physical ability to match up well, as a CB1. I mean, that's obviously why they brought him in. I just hope that they kind of slow walk him a little bit, and holding him back he's not going to love that, but holding him back just a little bit, I believe would propel his future to a different level. You know what I mean? Just allowing him to sit just a little. When I mean sit, like you're covering the number 2s, you're traveling with the number 2. I think that would be a huge benefit to his career. And like I said, he's not going to love it. He's too much of a competitor. And after watching some of the training or the rookie camp videos, I didn't love that first interception. I didn't love it. And I know that's kind of hard to say, only because he was playing from a position of behind on a tight end. That I didn't love. So I hate to see him be put in that situation where, I mean, his closing speed was great. It was a late ball, very late ball. That ball just kind of hung up there. What I did love is, receiver, tight end turns head, Terrion turns head, finds the ball, goes up and gets it. So that I did love about the fact that he's very aware. I just hate to see him playing from a position of behind. I would love to see him more in front of the receivers or the tight ends as much as possible. But anyway, there's many different ways to play the game, and situational tendencies obviously play a big role on what kind of position you're playing from. It's a long answer to say that I don't believe right now that he's starting at CB1. I don't believe it. Not yet, but this is a long off season. He's got an entire summer to get ready. I am not going to count Terrion Arnold out. There's a reason why we brought him. But to expand that, Eric, do you think it's a failure of Brad Holmes if Terrion Arnold is not CB1 week 1?
Absolutely not. No. And we have to make sure this kid is not going off script. We have to make sure that he is doing what he is told and playing the way he is supposed to, not making things up and doing what he wants, JMO style in the beginning. JMO's coming around now, and we need players that are on the right page and doing exactly what the coaches want them to do, and they have to earn the trust. And I really find it hard to believe that a player can earn the rest of the team just in preseason and training camp and OTAs. You have to do it through being on the field, showing that you can do it, and they'll bring him up incrementally. I truly believe that. I don't think they're just going to throw him to the wolves. They can't. That'd be the worst thing in the world, is to have him traveling with Justin Jefferson game 1 and getting torched a bunch of times. That would do nothing good for the kids' outlook for the future. You want to bring them along and let them build themselves up. I think Brad and Dan Campbell do a really excellent job at building players up, not forcing them to do too much too soon.
Our development, I think, is second to none. The way that these coaches, get these players ready. I mean, from what we've seen so far, the rookies that come in, you can guarantee your first 3 rounds are almost playing week 1. If not starting, they're playing a high level of snaps. So our development is second to none, and it's only getting better. I mean, we've just added better coaching staff this offseason too. So I think our development only gets better. So I'm going to follow one up here on Terrion Arnold. Now let's assume, and this kind of doesn't make sense, but so Terrion Arnold may not start week 1 at cornerback 1, but I do believe he's on the field game 1 to start. So does that give him an opportunity to, number 1, make the defensive rookie of the year list? And 2, does he win it? So does he get anywhere mentioned as defensive rookie of the year? And 2, can he win it? Now, I think that it would require him to probably have to be CB1 if they look at it that hard. Like, well, you didn't take on the top guys, so we're going to give you a knock, unlike, Sauce Gardner and Devon Witherspoon or whomever came into the league and they were immediately the number 1. Sauce Gardner, they didn't want to throw at him. So he had incredible stats because nobody wanted to throw at him. So can Terrion Arnold, number 1, start week 1? And number 2, if he does, is he mentioned in defensive rookie of the year list? Over under? Question to you, Eric.
Yeah, so I do believe that even though he might be CB2, he's still going to get lots of looks. He's going to be on the field a lot. He's going to have the opportunity to get picks and shine. And that's because he's going to be going against the number 2 or number 3 or number 4 receiver who might be a little slower, who might not be as tall as the other guy. And maybe he gets some, slants across the middle and gets a chance at picking off some balls. So maybe he ends up being that ball hawk right in the beginning, gets him that really good little push in the beginning of the season. And if the Lions have a really good season, like I think they're going to have, that I know they're going to have, I think he has an excellent shot at being defensive player of the year.
So Mr. Morale Tarantino says if he starts at CB1 or CB2, he'll take the over. And you know what? I've got some confidence in this kid. Like, everything about Terrion Arnold exudes the definition of confidence. I don't know if I've ever seen a player as confident as him in probably the last 5 seasons. Now, I think some people mistake cockiness for confidence. I call it, being cocky, confident. But look, I don't think there's any other way to say it. If you are confident about your ability, that really travels well with you on the field and during your play throughout the game. If he stays confident, there is no reason why he won't be an impactful player. It's when you lose that confidence that things really start to change in a hurry for you, especially as a cornerback. Because if you get burned and then burned again and then burned again, well, now that day might be in the dumps and you might not have a good game. And you know what? He might have a bad game or two, like it's expected. He's not going to come in and just completely shut everybody down. I know he's thinking he will, but it's just not probable. I don't believe that any rookie has ever come into the league as a corner and really locked everybody down every snap. I think that it's going to take him a minute to, adjust. He's got a long summer. He's got some really good wide receivers that he's going up against. He kind of has a mixed bag with the style of receivers that we have on this team. I mean, you have everything from extreme speed to the best hands, great height, Antoine Green, guys that will body you and box you out like DPJ. I think that there's a phenomenal mix of characters on that wide receiver group that are going to give, these rookie corners all they can handle and really test their mettle and sharpen that iron, as they like to say, and get these guys ready. So I'm going to go with the over 2. If he's starting week 1, I'm going with the over. I think that Terrion Arnold definitely makes the defensive rookie of the year list. The follow-up question, though, will he win it if he makes the list? I think it's going to be a dogfight. I don't know every year who wins defensive rookie of the year, like what position, usually holds that reign, whether it's defensive end pass rusher or if it's cornerback. Something tells me it's probably cornerback most likely, but we'll have to look up those stats. I don't know if that's something you want to look for while we're on this morning, like who, what position on the defense typically wins that position. And then I'll do one more and then we'll follow up with one of your questions here. So let's move on to like more of the offensive side of the ball here. This one's been talked about a lot lately, and we just spoke about it the other day. Jared Goff. So Jared Goff has had incredible 2 seasons back to back. Now, last year, let me pull this back up. Last year, regular season, I want to say, where was he? So he threw for 4,575 yards in the regular season, almost 4,600 yards. So my question this year is, Jared Goff throws for more than 4,700 yards just in the regular season. Over under, Eric, does Jared Goff throw for more than 4,700 yards in the regular season?
I'm going to say over. And the reason is Sam LaPorta is going to be in year 2. I really believe JMO is going to have a breakout year. He's going to get 900 plus yards in my optimist brain. And, DPJ is going to bring it on. The guy looks like Calvin Johnson right now. He's ripped like Megatron. So let's see what they can do. And we're going to sling the ball. Don't get that wrong. I think the Lions aren't going to stop slinging the ball and stop running the ball. Gibbs, hey, we didn't utilize him enough last year. He didn't get enough passes, in my opinion. Leaking out of the backfield, maybe chipping on a block and then catching a nice little pass for 4 yards and turning it into 40 or 50. So I'm going to take the over on that one.
So 2 things. One, I'll give you my answer. And 2, I'm going to come back to Chef Talks Lions answer on the previous question. So I'm going to go with the under here. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to completely take over the run game. I think that, and this kind of goes into another question here in a minute, so I won't give it away. Actually, I'll just tie it into this. So I believe that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have an excellent season. I think that our run game is going to explode this year, being his second year in Montgomery's second season behind what is arguably a better offensive line. So over under mixed in with this would be Jahmyr Gibbs gets more touches than David Montgomery. And that's why I'm saying that Jared's not going to have to throw the ball as much. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the premier back. I think he's going to be the lead back. Obviously, they do two different things. I mean, both can run, through the tackles and the outside, but I view Montgomery as that between tackle dog. I mean, he loves going through the middle of an offense defense. And he does well there. I mean, he's always getting 4+ yards at a clip. So I think that they're going to utilize Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit more heavily. And he's going to be the premier back. And that's why Jared Goff isn't going to have to chuck the ball as many times this season. But we might see some shorter routes too that require more passing, but he might have more attempts or something, but fewer yards. So that's my answer. It'd be the under on 4,700 yards. And Jahmyr Gibbs gets more touches than David Montgomery. I'm going with the over.
Yeah, me too. I think that Montgomery is going to still be used quite a bit. He might even be the starter. He might be the guy that comes into the game first. And listen, Montgomery had the really, really long run last year. He had a really long one that he busted, but it was only one or two really long runs that he had. How many did Gibbs have? Gibbs exploded. He had so many long runs, and he's just so fast when you get him out in space. And the thing is, Jahmyr Gibbs can catch the ball, and I don't think we utilized that very much last year. I think you're going to see a lot more passes going Jahmyr Gibbs' way. And I think that's one reason, and DPJ, why they didn't pick up another wide receiver. It just wasn't in the cards this year. They didn't see anybody that was the special guy that they needed. Somebody different than St. Brown. And like the kid that they brought in, the UDFA, the Williams kid, he's basically a clone of St. Brown. Same size, same speed, real good hands, had good production at Illinois. So I really think that Gibbs is going to get more touches. He's going to get more passes, and he might be in the game a little bit more than he was last year.
So to expand upon the explosiveness of Jahmyr Gibbs, just through week 9 of last season, more than 10% of his touches at running back were explosive plays over 15 yards. And that more than doubled the league average rate for all the other running backs in the league. So I think that should, be telling of itself that anytime he touches the ball, you just don't know, is it going to the house? Is it going for 20 yards? Because that's the kind of player he is. He's definitely explosive, and that's where I'm taking the under, because I think that his explosive plays are going to come back and they're going to be better than where he was last year. Which, I mean, it's a hard feat. I mean, it's not easy to do what he did last season. I just think he's going to be better at doing it. So let me back up here on the previous question about cornerbacks. Chef Talks makes a good point here. Says, I definitely don't believe there will be a CB1 or CB2 unless we're just talking about the game plan or scheme. The knock on Carlton Davis III is that he isn't great against the smaller, shiftier receivers. So that would be Terrion's go-to. So what he's speaking to here is there necessarily wouldn't be a CB1 or a CB2 identified. They would just have their spots per game. The receivers are going to cover per game, and they're going to travel. I'm assuming I'm getting this right from you, Chef Talks, but that's where I believe the Lions are heading to this year, is traveling. I feel like we're finally going to see these guys move around a little bit. Last year, they would get locked in on their side, and that was it. If the offense shifted, we didn't see a whole lot of shifting from the Lions' defensive players. You might have a little bit on the front line, the defensive line, but you didn't see cornerbacks traveling to the other side of the field very often. They might, shift down and then someone pick up that player, that receiver. You might have somebody else come up, but they weren't crossing, hash marks, if you will, to follow that player to the other side of the ball. So that's a good point by Chef Talks, that maybe, the scheme, is thrown out the window here, and it's, hey, this game, you've got this receiver whenever he's in. Carlton, you've got this receiver whenever he's in. So good point. He also said that Jahmyr Gibbs is a healthy Javid Best. Man, I don't even want to put Gibbs in that question or in that scenario. Javid Best, man, he was the best worst thing that happened to Detroit. Like, he was so explosive, just couldn't stay on the field. All right, so what's up next for you? What question you got?
Oh, well, you wanted me to look up who had won Defensive Player of the Year. So I looked that up real quick. So the last few were Will Anderson. He was an edge. And then you got Sauce Gardner, cornerback. Then Micah Parsons, basically an edge. Chase Young, an edge. Nick Bosa, an edge. Shaquille Leonard, an edge. Marshawn Lattimore, a cornerback. And then Joey Bosa, Marcus Peters, and Aaron Donald. So they've all been linemen or cornerbacks.
Yeah, so like I thought, it generally resides with the defensive end, edge, pass rusher position. Cornerback gets mixed in there. So I think that's a telling tale too, that corners are hard to find, right? Lockdown, shutdown corners are extremely rare. I would say, without having my list in front of me, there's probably less than 5 true lockdown corners, maybe less than 10. I could probably stretch it to 10 lockdown corners that have ever played the game.
Hey, Will.
Yeah.
I forgot. I got to go. Remember, I got a doctor appointment.
Oh, yeah, you do. All right. Have a good day, brother.
You got to go. I'm late. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right. We'll see you. And then there was one. All right. We'll keep it going here. So Chef Talk says Jared Verse or Dallas Turner. I mean, you could make a solid argument, I think, for all of them. This year's going to be a different year, I believe, for these defensive players. All right, so up next, it's kind of hard to do over under by yourself, but let's play along with the chat today and see what you guys have for me. Next up, I had Sam LaPorta. Okay, I feel like, if Jared Goff does have an exceptional season, Sam LaPorta is going to have a very similar season to what he had last year, which is really hard to do. You don't see, Kelsey or Kittle or Mark Andrews, consistently getting those numbers. It's very difficult to do. And they're getting numbers that are like, wide receiver style of numbers. But speaking of Sam LaPorta, I think that Sammy the Bull, which is my nickname for him, Sammy the Bull, breaks 1,000 yards receiving and 10 TDs in the regular season. So the question for the chat would be over or under Sam LaPorta, 1,000 plus yards, 10 plus TDs in 2024. What do you guys think? And while I'm waiting on those answers, Rick says if JMO has a breakout year, we're good at wide receiver. It's just the big if, and I'm not like a JMO hater or anything, but I think if you look at it realistically, you still have questions. Questions that haven't been answered just yet because we haven't seen enough. We had a small taste last year of what Jameson can do. And I think that this season, between Jared Goff and Jameson Williams entering their 3rd season together, we're finally going to see that chemistry is what I'm banking on. I think the chemistry is crucial for Jameson Williams to really step up and get break out of his shell and eclipse 1,000 yards. And we'll talk about JMO here in just a minute, right after the Sam LaPorta question. So Chef Talks Line says, let's not forget, there have only been 5 defensive player of the year cornerbacks in the history of the NFL. And it's a tough list to crack as a corner. And that's a great point that, goes with my top 10 list of shutdown corners all time. There might be 10. If I could think, off the top of my head, Deion Sanders, Revis Island. You could have made an argument for Sherman at one point. Let me see if I've got my list handy. I did this last year when we were talking about corners. Thought for sure the Lions were going to take a corner last year at some point. All right. So I do have Darrelle Revis on there, obviously. I have Deion Sanders on there. Patrick Peterson, he was my number 5. Sherman was on there, but he was like number 8 or 9. Ronnie Lott, I mean, he was decent. I don't know if he was truly shut down, but Rod Woodson, of course. Lem Barney, he's probably the only Lion that you could ever consider being a shutdown corner, but you're also talking back in, gosh, when was that? Early 90s? Late 80s? Somewhere in there? Got Darrelle Revis in here, Champ Bailey. So getting more to my top 5. Deion Sanders, Mel Blount, Mike Haynes. So those are more of like my top 5. And I'm sure there's some other ones in there, but that's just a quick list. All right. So what did you guys think about the question here? Sammy the Bull, does he break 1,000 yards in 10 plus TDs on the season, over, under? Tracy, Chef should be mod. I don't know why he's not. I added him the other day. But I don't have YouTube open right now to be able to change it. We'll get it on the next one. Unless this is all coming from the other channel. I think that's why. Yeah, you could make an argument for Ramsey. Absolutely, Mike P. 1,000%. Cake Man, good morning, man. How you doing? So over under Sam LaPorta, 1,000 plus yards in 10 TDs. We got one over. Chef Talk says over. I think there is a larger target share replacing Josh Reynolds. Great point. Bespica 1 says LaPorta on the over. All right. So with that in mind, let's move on to the next question, which would be talking about Jameson Williams. So obviously we have not seen everything from Jameson just yet. We're really hoping that this kid can finally break out and be worth that number 12 overall pick. Just so the question is this. Really, what is it going to take for Jameson Williams to earn our trust as a fan base? Meaning he's finally arrived. Because so far, what he's been able to do has not been enough. Now, he's had some good plays in spurts. But you'll hear this from AG or Dan Campbell or Brad Holmes. We don't want spurts. We want consistency. So you want that guy to come in and play at a high level every single game. Now, he's been used situationally in a lot of different areas. Heavy in the blocking. He's been great downfield blocking, which shows me he's starting to learn how to be unselfish. And that's really hard to do, with the kind of moxie and, confidence that these guys carry with them every single day. They want to be that number one. And it's tough to slide into a role, right? You slot yourself into a role. And now I think we're finally, seeing that maybe Jameson can fit into that role. Will he have a better season than Sam LaPorta? That's the question. Over under, Jameson Williams has a better season than Sam LaPorta. So there's been some reports that state, tight ends regress in their second season, especially if they had a really good rookie season. it's extremely rare for what Sam LaPorta did last year. So if you're a betting man and you're betting on, the regression of his stats from year one, then yeah, it would make sense to say, yeah, what he did hasn't been done in decades, and especially as a rookie, not so much a second, third, or fourth or fifth year tight end, but as a rookie. And for that reason, you would expect for Sam LaPorta to regress just a little bit, but I don't view it as a regression, if you will. I think it's just part of the process. But will Jameson Williams be able to pick up where he left off last year? He got hot in the NFC title game and then he disappeared. So we need consistency. If he can stay consistent, if he can catch 4, 5, 6 balls a game consistently, hopefully we get a couple of 9, 10 catch games out of him. But if he can catch 4, 5, 6 balls consistently every game, then yeah, there could be an argument there that he could have a better season than Sam LaPorta, partly because of his speed and how elusive he is. And you just, like Jahmyr Gibbs, you do not know if that ball is going to go to the house or not. So I think that there's an argument here, but I hate to be Debbie Downer this morning. I think that Sam LaPorta still has a better season than JMO. What would we give JMO for, stats this season to say it was successful? For me personally, I think he has to have more than 800 yards on the season. Has to, for it to be successful. He needs 50 balls, 50 receptions, 800 yards. If he can at least do that this season and slide into that role player mentality, Sam LaPorta gets 1,000, Amon-Ra gets 1,400, 1,500 maybe more. Who knows? Jahmyr Gibbs, gets 500. And then you got your other role players, Brock Wright, Shane Zielstra, if he's on the team. Sion Faki, I expect him to be utilized. And you're kind of maxed out right there. I mean, at that point, you're going to be pretty close to 4,500 yards for Jared Goff by the time, everything's added up. So I think that's where he has to be. But I think that Sam LaPorta still gets the best of Jameson Williams this year. For whatever reason, that's where I'm going with it. Yeah, I don't know, Chef Talks, if LaPorta's really going to get more targets naturally. I think he's earned it. I think he's earned the targets. But I also feel that defenses are now going to play LaPorta differently. You get your one shot, right? When like the Lions, they're going to be hunted now. Teams are on the look for them. They're preparing differently for the Lions. I expect really good matchups this year. I mean, I would love to say we're going to have a bunch of blowout games, just kick the tail of everybody, but I think we're going to have some tight games this year. And that's largely in part due to because the Lions did what they did in 2023. Everyone has this tape on them now. So LaPorta took his shot. Now he has to be better in 2024 as a player to get back to where he was. He has to be better than the next guy, right? Jameson Williams hasn't really broken out just yet, but I think teams, they have a good taste of what he is and know that he's explosive. But are they going to play JMO the same as they're going to play Sam? I don't think so. I think that Sam is going to be heavily guarded. The defenses are going to be scheming against him and Amon-Ra, I feel, more than anybody else, which leaves the window open for a Jameson Williams to get more targets. He just has to be able to get himself in position to catch those balls and be on the right spot at the right time and stop all the freelancing stuff. So we'll see what happens, man. Mr. Morale Tarantino says 900 yards, 7 TDs would be a good start, or would be good stats for JMO. Chef Talks is 800 yards through the air, 250 to 300 on the ground. I think that's a great point. What else we got in here? Rick says 800 yards, 5 TDs is a breakout season for JMO. I think it's a great start. I really do. Welcome in the ones. He says probably not unless he makes a huge step, but I believe Sam will be great as well. He's a huge steal. He absolutely was a steal. Yep, exactly. You leave JMO one-on-one with somebody. He's just got to beat those one-on-ones. Rick says Goff throws to the guys he feels most comfortable with. JMO is not currently on that list. He definitely wasn't the first 2 seasons. And I mean, that's no secret, right? I mean, Goff has even come out and said very similar words to that point that, you know, he has to learn to trust these guys. They build that chemistry in the offseason and going through training camp. Well, JMO missed the first year due to injury. Then he missed a large part of the second year due to gambling and injury. Now in his 3rd season, all he has to do is stay out of trouble, which shouldn't be a problem, and then stay healthy. If he can stay healthy and get through a full training camp and the preseason games and be ready to roll week 1, there's no reason why Jared Goff and JMO won't have that chemistry built this year finally. I think that this is the season that JMO really needed to develop that chemistry with Jared Goff to take their game to newer heights. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to hold out hope for Jameson. I still don't think that he beats Sam LaPorta this year, and then that's okay. Like, it's 100% okay. Utilize JMO for what he's, you know, available to do, which is be a playmaker. You know, I would rather see him have all these explosive plays, you know, over being the consistency factor, right? I would love to see him have 3-4, you know, explosive plays in a game, which are 20 plus yards versus 5, 6, 7 balls a game, you know, 7, 8, 12, 3, you know, kind of all over the place. But that's hard to do too. So we'll see where it goes. I'm not losing hope on Jameson just yet. I think he's had a tough go the first couple of seasons, and this will be the first year that he really gets a good crack at it. Speaking of Sion Vaki, though, man, just how impactful is this guy going to be? I think that he's going to be very impactful this year. Multifaceted position. He's going to be utilized safety, running back, wide receiver, special teams. And he's already proven himself to be very worth the pick by his effort and the way that he played even during rookie minicamp. Now, just rookies. Remember, these are a lot of guys that don't have any experience in the NFL. So there was a few guys that, you know, obviously had a lot of time. But will Craig Reynolds get beat out by Sion Vaki? So the hot take question for over under reaction Mondays is Sion Vaki beats out Craig Reynolds as RB3, and is Craig Reynolds not on the 53-man roster come cut day? What do you guys think? And I'm just about out of coffee, so that means we got to end the show here in just a few moments. So this will probably be one of the last questions. Sion Vaki, does he beat out Craig Reynolds at the running back 3 position? Understanding that Sion Vaki does play multiple different positions. And if that happens, does that mean that Craig Reynolds is not on the team at 53-man cut day and he gets relegated to the practice squad? Number one, I think that if Craig Reynolds does not make this team, he will be picked up immediately, is what I believe. I think that there'll be somebody out there that wants to bring his services in. I think that Craig still has an amazing opportunity to have a good season this year. It's going to be hard to get in front of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, but I do believe that he wants to play, right? He wants a bigger role. And for that reason, if another team comes knocking, he's probably going to roll with it. And he's not going to sit around and wait to end up on the practice squad. Now, without going deep into the contract, component to this, I don't think that he would be an unrestricted free agent, meaning any team could snag him up, but he might be. And I'll have to dig into that a little bit more another day, but if he doesn't make the team, I think he's gone. And for that reason, maybe the Lions don't want to let him loose, but we don't have room for 4 running backs. practice squad, sure. But last season, the Lions primarily had 2 running backs the entire season, with a third, and then even a fourth that we had to bring in with injury. That's what we had noticed last year, is that the Lions are very thin at running back. They were putting more resources in other positions. But this year, I think that they're going to have 3 on the 53-man roster for sure. And they're going to want to park, 1 or 2 guys on the practice squad, because injuries happen. It's not if, but when, in this league. And I feel like the Lions are going to want to stay protected in that regard. Hopefully we don't have a lot of injuries, though. So Mike P says, yes, Reynolds is gone. Chef Talk says, another loaded question, Will. You're trying to be slick. Hey, that's my job, man. Gotta be slick. Gotta be a little snazzy here in the morning. Get you guys thinking. Get that brain awake, right? Lord knows mine isn't. My body is beat up after all this work in the yard. Tracy says, I like Reynolds. He's definitely got competition this year from Vaki. He does. I mean, I like the fact that they're utilizing him in multiple different positions. When you have a utility player, or, a Swiss Army knife, if you will, of a player like that, clearly he will find a path to make the roster. I don't think that there's any doubt right now that Sion Vaki is probably a lock to make the 53-man roster. The question is, where is Craig Reynolds going to end up? And will the Lions keep more on the roster so they can protect some of these guys, or will you have the, injured reserve designation utilized or something like that? Not saying that the Lions would do that, but you never know. Rick says Vaki and Rodrigo play multiple positions. Craig's not likely to make the 53. Rodrigo finally expanded his chances last year, expanded his horizons, if you will. Not his chances, but he got more chances at being a utility player. I thought it was great watching Rodrigo catch a pass out in the flat last year. Ran a couple of balls. Putting him, back in the offense was exactly what I've been preaching now for many seasons. I have said time and time again, fullback position is a wasted position. Forget having a fullback. I mean, if that's what you want to call your player, great. But that's a position that should be held for a linebacker or a safety, right? Or a tight end. Someone that, you could really utilize on the roster as it is, that can play other positions very well, mind you. And you're not eliminating a guy off the roster because you want a fullback. Sion Vaki could do that. I'm not saying he could be a fullback. He's a little bit small to be a fullback, but he could play a fullback role. Rodrigo fit that option perfectly. He's someone that's a little bit, small for a linebacker, but from a fullback standpoint, perfect size, has that bulldog mentality, loves to hit guys. And I think that that's the biggest challenge, when you're on the offensive side of the ball, is finding someone that can be in a defensive mindset. And that was a perfect situation. So I'm not saying the Lions have heard me whine about it or ask for a change here, but they finally did it this last season. This could be the end of an era at fullback for the Lions, where Jason Kabinda is no longer, right? That type of position is no longer. And the Lions are going to start utilizing, extra tight ends, linebackers, or Swiss Army knives like Sion Vaki, Jalen Rees-Maben, even back in that fullback position. Rick says Aline could play fullback if we needed him to. Man, I would love to see Penei Sewell line up at fullback. Well, I would love it. The guy has soft hands. He can catch the ball. But man, I would love just to see a big road grader like Manu or somebody back there just paving the way for these guys. We haven't seen old school football like that in a long time. Mr. Morel Tarantino says, I think Vaki will ST until further notice. I'm not sure what that means. Tracy. Bucky says, at will, Tennessee wide receiver Treylon Burks for a conditional 6th. Yeah, I don't think so. I think the Lions are fairly done adding wide receivers at this point. I think they're pretty confident in the group that they have. Now, me personally, I still felt that they're missing that boundary guy, that true X receiver. But according to Brad Holmes just 4 or 5 days ago, they're really confident in the room that they have. They're expecting a big jump out of Antoine Green this year. Maybe we'll see it. But last year, we didn't get a lot from DPJ because he was a late addition. Again, he's another product of, I didn't go through a training camp with Jared Goff. I didn't earn Jared Goff's trust. And you know, I think that speaks volumes to Jared Goff. Like, he's just not going to go out there and throw the ball to anybody and put himself in a bad position, put a team in the bad position because maybe he doesn't trust this guy just yet. Why throw him the ball? It wouldn't make any sense. Now, these are all professional athletes, so you would think that they know what they're doing. But I love that about Jared Goff, that he really wants to get to know you. I don't think it's an impediment to Jared Goff's ability. I don't think it impedes, how the offense functions. If anything, I feel like that is the most professional demeanor to have with your guys, to say, look, you want to play? You want to play for the Detroit Lions? You have to be here and earn it and work through it and develop chemistry with the rest of the guys. Until you do, sorry. If you get the ball, you're lucky. But please go out there and just make plays. Go out there and be a blocker. Go out there and be a decoy. There's other ways you can earn a spot on this team. There's other ways you can help this team win ball games. That's what DPJ did last year. Clearly, we've seen Jameson Williams out there blocking downfield to a point that Eric mentioned earlier. Springing Montgomery, I believe, in the Chargers game was about a 75-yard run, primarily because Jameson Williams is downfield making blocks. It was an incredible sight to see. I thought it was awesome. Okay, special teams. So yeah, I think Faki's going to play a lot of special teams. We're going to see him in some situations though that I think will be pretty fun. Brad Holmes, Bucky says Brad Holmes also said that he was happy with cornerback position, then proceeded to draft cornerbacks in the first 2 rounds. No, I don't think he's a liar, Bucky. I think that they were good with off-season acquisitions, free agency. They weren't even to the draft yet. So I think there's a defining line there. Brad Holmes was good with bringing in guys off the street, free agents. Same thing with wide receiver. They're good with wide receiver. They didn't even draft one. But don't give up on the fact that this early fall, late August, when 53-man cuts happen, if there is a player that they really love that becomes available, there might be an opening for him. We'll see what happens, but that's where Brad Holmes does, some of his second or third tier free agency moves is after 53-man cuts. So last season we saw, was it last season or the season before that? Who came in after 53-man cuts? Mine's running blank. Who was it? Why can't I think of the player that came in? I don't know. I'll have to come back to it tomorrow. I'll have to look it up. My mind's blank today. See, I'm out of coffee. See what happens. Yeah, you also can't tip your draft hand. That's a good point too, Chef Talks. But I think that there's just a difference there in verbiage and kind of what Brad Holmes was saying and what he was actually doing. Not picking up guys in free agency, going too heavy in free agency would have limited what they were able to do in the draft. And look, the roster is a constant evolution, right? There's ebbs and flows to this thing that are evolving throughout the entire, 365 days a year. And we'll always see moves as long as they're able to pull it off. Right now, it's getting through summer camps as healthy as possible. If we lose a guy because, they blow an ACL, in the summer, then yeah, we're going to have to pick somebody up. But I think for right now, they're pretty set with their roster. But even the back end of the 90-man roster, those last 10 guys are pretty fluid. So you'll probably see some changes here or there. And to that point, the Lions did bring in, another wide receiver off of Arizona Cardinals practice squad. So I think to your point, Bucky, this guy doesn't really have any playtime, but Caden Davis, he's pretty much coming in to try to earn a spot. I mean, it's slim to none for this guy to be able to make the roster. But the Lions agreed to a contract with wide receiver Caden Davis, who attended rookie minicamp this week with the organization. He is the first reported addition from the team's group of tryout players this week. Davis most recently was with the Arizona Cardinals practice squad during the preseason. He caught 8 catches and a touchdown. He was active for the Cardinals during one game last year. He signed a futures contract with the Cardinals at the conclusion of the 23 campaign, but then he was waived on April 30th. Prior to that, Davis was in Michigan as a member of the Michigan Panthers. He played 5 games for the Panthers during the 2023 season, contributing both on offense and in the return game. So that's an interesting piece right there, right? That he contributed in the return game, which again is a way you can make this team through special teams. Davis played collegiately at Division II Northwest Missouri State, where he totaled 703 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns in his senior season. So again, outside chance for this guy to be able to make the roster, but this is where, a player becomes available. The Lions need guys, they need camp bodies. That's what he is, for right now. It would take a lot for him to really beat out, some of these other guys. Rick says, wide receiver is making blocks always deserves credit. Wide receiver JMO size making blocks deserves respect. They typically refuse to block. I love that about JMO, right? His tenacity. He's willing to mix it up. So anyway, that's it for today's show. We'll be getting into more of these over under type Monday questions. It's obviously a lot better with 2 people. I think that throughout the week, I've got to order a new cord from Rode. My other cord does not work for the phone calls. So I'm going to work on getting that set up. We're obviously working on getting a new streaming service rolling, which I'm going to try to do it this week. Try to get it finally switched over. So I think that everyone was in agreement the other night that everything looked better, sounded better. We didn't have any hiccups. I just have to learn how to use it. And this is a good time to practice while we're in the off season. We don't have as many people on, so I don't have to be as quick with things. But anyway, tonight, big show tonight. We have former recruiter, offensive coordinator for Giovanni Manu, University of British Columbia, now with Salt College. Paul Orazzetti will be on tonight. We're going to be talking about Giovanni Manu and try to get the inside scoop on just who Giovanni Manu was, coming out of high school, and what he thinks about CFL players projected to the NFL. Are there any other players that we should be looking at? And does he have any information on Matu bets? So I'm going to ask this gentleman tonight all sorts of different questions, and we'll just roll with it. So we'll have a good night tonight. I'm going to start at 7:30. And then Paul will be joining us very quickly after 7:30, probably right around 7:45. But as soon as he gets in, we'll bring him in for at least 30 to 45 minutes, go through the questions, and I can't wait, man. I cannot wait to learn more about Giovanni Manu. If you guys haven't, just Google his name. There's just so much great information about Giovanni Manu and the type of player he is, type of person he is, what he sacrificed. You're going to learn more about tonight if you haven't already learned it, by today. Just an amazing character. I can see why the Detroit Lions really wanted to bring this type of an individual in. Perfect situation, not only for the player, but for the team. So super excited about Manu. Another great addition to the Lions, and we'll enjoy it tonight with Paul Orizzetti. So Chef Talks says, send someone a link to the pod and make sure they have their camera off. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah, there's more ways to do phone calls. Maybe if you want to show me something, I'll try it. So, all right, you guys have a great morning. It's Monday. Do something positive today. That's the goal each and every day, right? Let's try to do something positive today. We're going to positively affect Detroit Lions fans with a lot of information and good content. That's our goal. So you guys have a wonderful Monday. We'll see you guys tonight, 7:30, right back here on Rockhound Podcast Network, the home of the Rockhound Detroit Lions Off the Cuff podcast. Paul Orizzetti, Giovanni Manu, up next tonight, 7:30. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.